All right, it is 10:03, so we will go ahead and begin the webinar. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. My name is Leslie Taylor, and I am going to be your moderator today for this webinar. I'm a SCORE volunteer. I do some webinars myself in addition to moderating, but I'm also a local Atlanta entrepreneur and owner of Leslie Taylor and Associates Business Solutions. But today we are going to talk about marketing your product. But before we get into that, I want to go into a few housekeeping slides and share some information with you about the organization that is putting on this webinar, and that is SCORE. All right, so who we are. SCORE is made up of 11,000 volunteers, 300 chapters nationwide. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we're a resource partner to the SBA. The Georgia chapters, even though I know that some of you may be joining from outside, that's thanks due to COVID, but the Georgia chapters are SCORE North Metro Atlanta, which is this chapter, SCORE Atlanta, and the others named there as well. But as I mentioned, I know some of you may be joining from elsewhere. Normally these webinars are not webinars, they are in-person seminars, but again, because of COVID, we are able to welcome more people from around the country. So what do? We help small businesses succeed through online templates, checklists, webinars such as these that are extremely reasonably priced, workshops, business advice, and our services are, as I mentioned, either free or carry a very nominal fee. So today's workshop is hosted, as I mentioned, by SCORE North Metro Atlanta, serving the counties that you see there. And if you want to check out our website and learn more about the services that are offered, especially the free, and I will say free, not many things are free mentoring, go to the website there on the screen. So housekeeping. Sorry about that. That was my alarm in my house in the background. Okay, so housekeeping. Everybody's been set to mute. If you have issues during the presentation, please send me a chat message. I will actually send a chat message to the host/panelist. I will be checking the chat. I'll also be checking the Q&A. Use the Q&A button to post your questions for the host. As he's presenting, I'll be in the background looking for questions. You know, if there's something that I feel, we need to stop and answer immediately, I'll bring it up and have him pause for a bit to answer that question. But we will have Q&A at the very end. But again, if there's something that's burning and it's really relevant to a specific slide, then I will go ahead and have him pause so we can get that question answered. Let's see. If we run short on time, any questions not answered in the webinar will be answered by email directly from Zachary. So he's going to provide his contact information. And if you find out, after the fact that you have questions that you didn't get answered, that we didn't get to, or maybe they just come up later, you can contact him directly to get those questions answered. Also, very, very important, it might almost be the most important thing, but as you exit today's webinar, there's going to be a brief survey. So in order to get to the survey, you have to exit the webinar, and then the survey will come up. If you complete the survey, you will get a resource guide from today's workshop, okay? Because everyone always asks, will I get a copy of the slides or additional information? You will get additional information from the workshop, but you have to fill out the survey once you exit. And I'll remind folks of this again at the end of the slide, because I know at the end of the presentation, because I know people may come in after I go over all of this. Also, we will have a giveaway at the end of today's workshop. So stay tuned for more details on that. All right. Are there any more SCORE slides, or was that it?
That's it.
Okay, so next I am going to introduce our speaker today. Zachary Bennett is the principal behind Reformation Productions. It's a full-service marketing agency located in Gwinnett County. He comes with a 20-plus year career in marketing and advertising, working to grow major companies like Bank of America, The Limited, Vectren Corporation, True Green, Kimlon, Dick's Sporting Goods, Lowe's Home Improvement, Campbell's, Gwinnett Medical Center, Victoria's Secret, and the list goes on and on and on. So since starting his own boutique agency and providing his marketing expertise and skills to Reformation Productions clients, he's dedicated his time and efforts to the pursuit of helping educate business professionals on the ways that the marketing process has been perfected by Fortune 500 companies, and bringing his experience then to local and regional companies in ways that they can afford. Reformation Productions is dedicated to helping companies market their businesses in the most effective and efficient ways possible with a process used by Fortune 500 companies called straight line marketing. And to find out more about the agency, you can, he's going to share more information with his website and email and all that information at the end. So for now, I will turn it over to Zachary Bennett.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to How to Bring Your Product to Retail. In today's session, there are a few things that you need to be aware of. This is a huge subject. There's a whole industry related to it, college courses, business degrees, all dedicated to learning about it. I will not be able to get to everything. I go super in depth on some things, but not everything. There's simply too much to go into. But I do think you're going to get some value out of today and learn exactly what you need to know to bring your product into the retail marketplace. Now, here is the agenda for today so that you know kind of what we're going to be covering. We'll go over my background. We'll go over the process starting at the very beginning, understanding retail, understanding the science of selling, going through the different steps that you have to go through, a pitch and what that is, what details go into that, product launch, direct selling, online retailers, local retailers, getting ready for major retail, and then what to do when you are ready. And then we'll talk about the giveaway and then the Q&A there at the end. So let's get going. All right, my name is Zachary Bennett. You will see it written with my first initial because if you Google Zachary Bennett, you will get this guy. And as much as I would love to be a younger Canadian actor from Toronto, it is not so. So therefore, on the interwebs and the professional world, I am known as B. Zachary Bennett. And I am listed that way all across the internet. So if you want to follow my content online after spending time with me here today, I welcome you to do so. The best thing to do rather than try to write all these down right now would be just to go to my website and you will find all of the links there. I am a marketing executive that has been in the industry for more than 25 years. I offer fractional and interim CMO services. I do one-on-one and corporate consultation to companies. I am an official SCORE partner, and I also work with the SBDC and the various chambers of commerce. I do workshops for different organizations, both corporate and associations. I'm also the author of Married to Marketing. That's what I did over COVID. And I am a frequent contributor to The Gray Journal. And then I also run an award-winning agency and a podcast, Reformation Productions, and then Straight Shot Marketing Podcast. And so I spend a lot of my time serving the business community. And I do that because I believe that an enlightened business owner is a better business owner. I believe in free enterprise, pure capitalism, freedom of destiny, and the American dream, which is part of what we're going to be talking about here today. Now, I'm a business owner myself, so I am one of you. My day job, where I provide for my family and employ others, is through Reformation Productions, which is a full-service marketing agency in Gwinnett County. I encourage you all to check us out at reformationpro.com when you have time. My other website is bzacharybennett.com, like I mentioned. There you can see where I'm going to be speaking next. Check out the blog, find links to all my small business content online. And you can also get a copy of my book from there. It's called Married to Marketing, a relationship guide to business. And that's where we are going to start because it is relative to you and this class. In my book, I walk through the journey of an entrepreneur, a business owner, from start to finish. And I liken it to a romantic relationship journey. Businesses can seem complicated. It's one of the reasons that you are in this session here today. So I use this familiar analogy as something that everyone can relate to because there are a lot of similarities between the two, the business relationships and romantic relationships. If you think of your customers as the bride and your company as the suitor, you will be able to kind of see those things. For example, in the beginning, children, particularly girls, will dream of one day getting married and finding their soulmate. Likewise, business owners will have a dream, an idea that motivates them to move forward. Both go through a period of self-discovery, followed by evaluating their competition, figuring out what their future bride, your customers, would want from you, and what you might have to offer them. Then there is dating. That dating is where you gather intel on your suitors. So when likening that to business, that's basically gathering data. Okay. And then it's followed by engagement. This is when things start to get real. You make an investment, you put a ring on it. And then you start planning for your wedding day and you launch your business and you begin to plan your life thereafter. So there's a lot of parallels, like I said, that you kind of go through very similar to that in the entire process. So it all starts with a dream, and then you seek understanding as you start the process. Now, I can help you discover what your dream is. I can help you to understand the process, but what I can't do is an old saying. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You have to provide the drive, the want to. You have to be able to conquer your fear. No one can do that for you. You have to conquer that innate desire to take the easy road because owning a business is not easy. It's hard work. Anybody that tells you different is trying to sell you something. But the reward is great for those people that want to make the journey. Now you know a little bit about me. Tell me a little bit about you. So Leslie's going to throw up a poll for you guys to kind of let me know where you are in your business career using the analogy that I just talked about. So are you new? Do you have a dream and you're right at the beginning of the process? Are you dating? Are you gathering information, gathering mode, doing your competitive analysis, your consumer targeting? Are you in the engaged section, meaning that you've made that initial investment that comes when you say, I'm serious, or you're ready to make that initial investment? Are you planning for your wedding? You're in launch preparation mode, or have you already launched and you are looking to be successful in that launch? You could also be course correcting mistakes or making changes to enhance your business. Or maybe this is a side hustle and you're just starting a business to kind of do on the side. Gathering this information kind of helps me to frame my conversations for the people that are in the room. If I know how much experience you have had owning and running a business and what your goals might be.
All right, looks like we've got about 76% of the folks have voted.
Okay.
So we will go ahead and end polling.
Alrighty, so let's see what we've got here. The majority are engaged. You've made the initial investment. You're serious. You're ready to start. That's great. Then the next highest is people that are brand new, right at the very beginning of the process. Good. A couple of people doing a side hustle, other people planning to launch their business. That's great. And other people gathering information. All right, good information. Thank you very much. All right. So background on this webinar and this teaching that I'm doing here today. Today is based on my own experiences with things that I've learned over the course of my career. I've helped build several businesses for my clients, but what sparked this lesson in particular was my experience with multiple clients that came to America with a dream to start their own business. But they didn't know how America worked and they needed guidance. So I had to explain much of the same things that I'm going to explain here today. Now, I had to start with the fact that America is founded on capitalism. That's right. It's a singular word for the American dream, meaning that if you put your mind to it and you put your back into it, you can accomplish anything in this country. The government doesn't own the business world in this country. Your discipline, your education, your work ethic, and your ingenuity can provide you with profits and money here in America. Now, in other countries, that's not the case, which is where there was a definite breakdown between people that were coming here and learning how to operate here. Here, the consumers, your customers, get to choose what they want to purchase. It is not mandated by the government. Again, not always the case. And this is a major difference that the clients that I had personally that came to the United States from other countries was having. With these truths being said, companies in America will do their best to influence that customer's choice. And there is always a choice. You can develop something brand new, and you have about a year after that before competition and copycats spring up all around you, trying to take the market share and provide customers with a choice. All right, so let's go over some common business terms, some of which I will be using today, so it's important to know what they are. Revenue. Revenue is income. It's also gross revenue for the business. So if you hear it called gross revenue, if you hear it called income, it is the term revenue. Profit is leftover income after expenses. It's also called net revenue. So those expenses that would then be taken out of the revenue would include administrative, marketing, operations, and those are the three pillars on which business stands. Benny Santaromena is a friend of mine over at the SBDC, and he calls it a stool. So I'm going to put the stool up here. He adds management as a additional component on top that connects all of the three legs together. So when you look at your business, this is kind of a way to see it from a business perspective. Now, profit margin can mean one of three things, probably more, but here are the most common. Profit margin can mean gross profit margin ratio, operating, net profit. There's lots of different types. And those numbers matter because there is a standard in whatever industry you're trying to get in that you're going to want to be able to meet or exceed. Also because these figures that I've mentioned here today are used in other formulas to come up with other standard numbers. Again, these standard numbers are used in a way for you to see where you are on track in your industry and if you are doing things correctly or doing things right. For example, your marketing budget should be 10 to 20% of your gross revenue. That's the first term that I talked about. That's the standard. Now, you can go above or below it, but that is the standard for American business. When you go to college and you take a business degree, that's what they're going to teach you. But there are many different alternative formulas to this that you can use. Now, if you go to reformationpro.com/budget, you will find three calculators that use three different recognized formulas. So while there are standards and there's rules, the rules are just guidelines based on other people that are in your industry and other people that have been successful at doing this. Then there's also a term called cost of goods. There's 4 different formulas for that go in and determine your cost of goods. Generally speaking, cost of goods sold is an accounting term that is used to describe the expenses that are incurred to produce goods or services sold by a company. So it is basically physical operating costs. And you need to be familiar with these terms and these formulas, or have somebody else in your pocket like a consultant or an accountant who is. Now, let's take a moment to talk about retail, starting with the players, the roles, and the processes that are used in the retail, traditional retail system. So in this is you. You want to get your product into stores so that you can therefore reach customers. But oftentimes the store, which is already established, will want you to use their distributor, who they already have a relationship with. So when you sell to them, they will then sell it to the store because it makes the store's life easier. There are also wholesalers, which supply stores will sell products as well. So you will want to sell to them also, because they also supply the stores with product to sell. Now, let's talk about money. The customer pays MSRP, which you've heard on car commercials, manufacturer suggested retail price. It's also called full price, all right? And the store is willing to pay 50% of that to their supplier for the product. The supplier, if it's not you going direct, they're willing to pay half of that to you as the manufacturer. Everyone in the chain doubles the costs so that they can make profit. So you will sell the product to a distributor or wholesaler for 25% of the retail cost, and he will sell it to the retailer for 50% of retail cost, and the customer will pay 100% of retail cost. Now, all of this is negotiated with the different parties, but this is basically the standards that you're going to see. Now, some wholesalers are also open to the public, and they will double what you sell, and so that the customer gets a deal. But they will also make them pay membership fees. You've heard of Costco and Sam's and that sort of thing. So they end up getting more money as well, tacked on a little bit extra. Now, if you sell product directly to the public yourself, you're going to end up making more profit because you get the entire percentage. You can sell direct to your customers for the MSRP because you have no middleman. So you will be able to keep the largest portion of the sale yourself by doing that. Now, in that case, why would you ever want to utilize a distributor or a wholesaler? Well, you know that stores have the relationships with customers, okay? Distributors and wholesalers have relationships with the stores, the retailers, or direct to the customers in some cases. And you want access to those customers through those existing relationships. Also because retailers will buy in bulk. To meet the customer demand that they have to buy in bulk because people want it now, right? So the suppliers will buy from you in bulk. So you need to ensure when you're working with them that you have order and reorder minimums that will make it worth your while. Since you will be making less profit per unit, you have to look at making more profit through volume. So you'll make less per unit, but they're not going to buy one unit at a time, right? They're going to be buying in bulk. So you get to set what those standards are when you're negotiating your agreement with them. So you can see why you would want to work with these distributors and wholesalers. Now, you could try to broker these relationships yourselves, but that can be difficult because every inventor and every manufacturer in the world wants into the retail market through these retailers. So sometimes a business will partner with somebody that has these relationships already. Often they will want to be an investor, or at least be treated like an investor, in return for the introductions that they would make for your company and for the advice that they will give you in preparing for these meetings with the retailers. So they'll either want to be an investor. Sometimes you can pay them and they'll take simple fees. Those types of partners are called brokers and agents, which we'll get into the different types here a little while later. But whether you use a partner or you go direct yourself, you are likely going to need a consultant that will help you to prepare for these pitch meetings. This is where I come in. I am this guy. I am one of many people that would be considered a business consultant. I happen to have a front row seat for all of this on a very regular basis. So you would hire my team so that your business can be all that you can be to serve the needs of these retailers and customers, because they have certain requirements, all of which we will go over today. Now, there are other types of consultants, business consultants, both private and some that work through organizations like SCORE and the SBDC, that you can get a lot of help on the administrative and the operations side. You remember those legs of the stool? They can help you with the more financier part of things, preparing for loans, venture capital, that sort of thing. And then they will often refer you to someone like me for the business communications related aspects. That's that third leg of the stool. Because it is such a big part of business, this leg often requires expertise in that field specifically. So that's where I am always introduced into this process. So we consultants are one of the first people that you will work with, because in order to establish any of those other relationships, they have to want to work with you. And we can help to make that happen. If you are an inventor or a manufacturer, a chef, a craftsman, then you are an expert in what you make, your product, not all of the intricacies of business. So there are specialists that partner with companies that do. We don't make retail products, but we serve the companies that do. Now, in order to gain those retail relationships, you're going to need to give them what they want. And yes, they have to want to work with you, because they have a multitude of manufacturers just lying in waiting for their attention. But you also have to protect yourself throughout the process. And we'll talk about some of how to do that as well. But let's reaffirm who they are and then talk about what they want to see from you. So first may be the partner or the investor, because they may hold a relationship to the retailer, distributor, or wholesaler. Now, you can go direct to all of these guys, so you also need to be mindful of giving them what they want as well. And if you do have the partner relationship, they will let you know what their connections are going to want specifically, because they've worked with them. All of these retailers, all of these different channels, the distributor, the store, the wholesaler, they're all going to want different specific things. What we're going to talk about today are the things that all of them want together. If you have a partner, they'll tell you, this chain that I work with specifically wants this. So you'll have that sort of insight. There's also a common fact that the retailer may want you to use the channels that they have already established to make it easier on them. So this particularly happens with larger retails, but there are tons of manufacturers, and they often keep them straight through specified specific channels. So as a manufacturer, what do they want from you? Well, they want to know that the product that you make is going to be profitable for them, right? They want to know what your turnaround time is, because it has to be something that works for them and the needs that they're going to have. They may also require you to use their partner distributor, like I mentioned. in regards to protecting yourself in these relationships, which you do need to look out for as well. You need to look at your payment terms, whether it's net 30 or whatnot. The retailer, distributor, wholesaler will have things that they are used to, which you may not be. And the larger they are, the more they get to tell you what you have to do in order to work with them. So something to look out for. Another thing is your shipping term policies. You have to be mindful of those as well. Who's going to be responsible for the product during the shipping? Is it going to be you? Or is it going to be them? These are things that you kind of need to negotiate when you're talking with them. Is it when it leaves your store, it becomes their problem? Or is it after it's delivered to them? So who's responsible for that? What happens in transit, right? The other thing to remember is not to overextend yourself. Many businesses have gone under because they couldn't handle the extreme production needs that come from being in a retail store. They're going to want to see that you have a plan for how to handle that level of production, the demand that they're going to put on you. But most importantly, above all else that we've talked about here, what they want to know is that your product is desirable, that it will sell. Because in the end, these guys here don't want a product if no one is interested in it. Everyone wants to please the customer, because they are who ultimately is in charge of supply and demand-based capitalistic business ventures. So you need to know first and foremost how to please them as well, because that's the end goal, the end user. Well, how are they going to determine if your product will sell? That is the biggest thing that they want to make sure. How are they going to determine that? And you need to know that all business relationships that you're going to have want to know this before they decide to do business with you. Benny Santaromana, a friend of mine over at SBDC, I talked about just a minute ago, he's one of the consultants there. Now, Benny's one of the guys that sends over clients to me on a regular basis, refers people to me. And he's told me that there are production and supply vendors that want to see this sort of information before they'll give you company credit with them. That's a lot on the financial side of things. I don't deal with that as much. So go see him about that and then come to me to talk about these other things. Okay, so yes.
Zachary, we do have a few questions related to the models that you showed on the last slide. Did you want to go ahead and take those?
Sure.
Okay. So one of the questions was, how would the business model look for a slow or sustainable retail? Would it look the same?
Yes, the retail model is the same traditionally for everybody.
Okay.
Regardless of what business is, how fast it is, any of that.
Okay. And then the other question I had, and you may be getting into this later, that is, how do you get in contact with the manufacturer to help develop the product?
I'll go through that.
Okay.
All right. So again, what they need to determine if your product's going to sell, which is the first thing that they want, is they're going to need to see a track record from you. That means you have to prove that it will sell by selling it and then tracking your results that you'll then be able to show them. They also want to see what your brand story is. Now, your brand story has to be true, believable, and attractive. And they're going to want to see it because it will factor into your sales statistics. So that's going to matter to them as well. They also want to see your packaging, right? It should be professional. It should be eye-catching. It should convey that brand story that we just talked about. Oftentimes you can impress them by showing them that you have a display in mind so that they don't have to worry about that. Again, the key is to make it easy and wanted by their customers. You want to make it easy for them, and you want to prove that it's desirable to the end user. Now, that being said, there are elements that they want to see evidence of that are even stronger than those, and that is that they want to see that there is a need or desire in the marketplace. They want to see that there is a buzz surrounding things that you have the solution to. So all of that is what they're going to be looking for. And sometimes it goes in weird orders, which we'll talk about a little later. But in order to establish those things, you're going to have to prove that your product will sell. And in order to do that, you're going to need to understand the science of selling, or hire somebody that understands the science of selling that can kind of walk you through it. Here are some of the principles that's behind this thinking, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. The first is called the authority principle. And that's the idea that people are more likely to buy from someone that has authority, someone that's an expert. And you can see this because these people put certificates on the wall. They showcase their experience. They have media coverage. They have different degrees. They'll share reviews with you. All of that is to prove and show credibility. Okay. They'll also can do it through whatever their title may be, the clothing that they wear, the car they drive, the type of office they have, the presentation that they give out there. They're trying to show you that they have authority, that they are an expert, because people are more likely to buy from people that have authority. Also, people are more likely to buy from somebody if they like them. So engage in relationship building, make connections, show similarities, show people that you understand them, cooperate with your consumer for a mutual goal, have the same causes or beliefs. That's why a lot of businesses partner up with charities, is because they're trying to say, we care about the same things that our customer cares about, because people are more likely to buy from somebody that they like, that they have that connection with. So pay compliments to them, pay attention to them. It's one of the reasons why social media has become big in business, is because it is a way for you to pay attention to your customers and talk to them in a way that we've never been able to do before. The third principle here is the principle of give and take. Now, this works because people feel obligated to give back, to return the favor. For example, when you invite somebody to your birthday, you have your birthday party, you're going to invite the same people that invited you to theirs. The reason why you do that is because you feel an obligation to give back and return the favor. This is also the reason why companies do try for free or cheap. That's why you see all of that. If it's free, I have to take one. If I like it, then I have to buy one. That's kind of the thinking that goes behind this. So if they give you a sample, whatever. Okay. Now, it's important, if you're using this, to be first. You have to be the first one to give, but you have to be natural. You have to do it out of love. You have to do it out of friendship. Now, the principle of social proof. That's another one. If others are doing it, then they are more likely to do it themselves. So this is kind of like peer pressure in the business world. Often businesses will tell you that they are the fastest growing or largest selling, or how many followers they have. 95% of people look up to other people to determine their own actions. So in this, you want to show how everyone else has been impacted. That's why you'll always hear the number one in real estate, the number one this, whatever. Another one is the principle of scarcity, and that has to do with the fear of missing out. People want to have more of what's less available. That's why diamonds are more valuable than gold. Mankind knows how to make diamonds now. So the reason it's more valuable than gold is because they restrict the supply in the marketplace. So that is a choice to make sure they are more valuable than gold is, because scarcity is what sells. Now, the fear of losing something is more motivational oftentimes than the promise of something that they're going to gain. This is a little backwards. If you sell an alarm system, say, you will tell them that they will lose their belongings. They'll lose the safety of their family. I've seen one that talks about, the innocence of their children. They are going to talk about it from what you will lose instead of what you're going to gain. You will gain a sense of security, a better night's sleep, that sort of thing. So all of this has to go with principles in psychology of why people buy certain things. Also, within the same principle lies the limited number tactic, right? So there's only 5 pieces left, or that sort of thing. eBay and Amazon do this. There's only 2 pieces left for you to buy. And also the deadline tactic is the same, right? So it's available for a limited time. It's only available until the 15th of this month, whatever it is. So that's some of, and there's an awful lot to this, but that's some of the thinking behind how to position yourself for sales that's traditionally done. Now, all of this has to do with how you're going to communicate your business. Marketing is a common synonym for business communications. Marketing is the act of proactively communicating for the purpose of awareness, fame, sales, raising funds, or bringing celebrity. And marketing is concerned with the why behind business. It's consumed with the study of people choosing one thing over another and why do they make that choice, right? What can I do to influence the people to choose me? So it goes back to where I was talking about customers having the choice. Your company wants to influence that choice. That is done through business communications, through marketing. Marketing is where psychology, creativity, and strategy all come together in the business world. Marketing is what provides the tools and the thinking behind sales. So all of this is important for you to know because you have to prove all of this before you can ever get to a store. So we start on paper first, right? These are some of the actionable steps. There's many books out there that you can buy. There's many courses that you can attend, podcasts you can listen to, and organizations like SCORE and like the SBDC that you can meet up with to help you with building a business plan, which is where you should start at the very beginning before you spend any more money on what you're doing. So you should have a vision, your purpose, your goals, much more, all that go into your business plan. Now, your business plan is an ongoing living document. As a business owner and a CEO, you are constantly monitoring your progress according to your business plan and then making adjustments as you continue to grow throughout the years. So the business plan that you have is going to be very important. The next thing after that is financing round one. This is usually personal monies, family monies, money from investors, crowdfunding, that sort of thing. It's usually not a business loan from a bank unless you use personal collateral. And the reason why that is because your business doesn't have anything that the bank is going to require yet, like a product, a plan, orders, that sort of thing. Okay. So usually this first level of financing is out of personal funds or that's why you see Kickstarter and all of that became very popular for the same reason. So after that, you will start product development. Now, this is not a short process. You can see here in the graphic where it talks about the fuzzy front end. After that, it becomes very structured, and we're going to go over what that structure is today. But the important thing to know is don't wait till the last minute thinking that it is a short process or trying to rush it. You don't want to do that. You need to do it properly, or the heartache at the end will be just as big as your excitement at the beginning. So you have to follow the process. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to do within this process is make a prototype. Make whatever your product is going to be so that you can ensure that it works, right? Don't come to these people with an idea. An idea is not enough. So you're going to have to make whatever that product is first. After that, you have to start developing your brand. This is where somebody like me would step in to help develop the overall story of your business, your vision, your positioning, your messaging, your target audience, and their consumer profile. Common vernacular for consumer profile nowadays is avatar. If you ever hear customer avatar, that's what they're talking about, is your target audience consumer profile. You've heard of consumer research. That's what all of this is referring to. You need to get to know your customer extremely well so that you can design everything that you do to meet their needs. We talked about them being the end-all be-all of this process, right? And out of all of that work is going to come the product name and the product packaging so that it can then be sold to the public. So all of that work goes into what you see when you make your final product. Then we develop a strategic marketing plan. Now that you have a physical product, the brand behind the product, and the product presentation, how you're going to market that product to your audience is what's next. Now, with that foundation built, now we need to determine how you are going to sell it. You will need to determine your sales force and the relative procedures that they will use in selling your product. That may be one-on-one scheduled meetings, networking, personal introductions between people that you know, in-person presentations or demos. Maybe you're selling out of your truck. You have a mobile business that you're selling out of. In this step, you're going to determine how your sales force is going to work. What are the procedures? What are your sales force going to look like? And all of that planned out. Again, this is not stuff that you're going to want to wing it. You want to plan it out in your business plan. All right. The next thing is you need to determine fulfillment. Are you going to fulfill these orders yourself, or are you going to use what's called a co-packer, which is somebody else that puts the product together for you? Think about it like Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola is a syrup in a bottle. Well, they have Coca-Cola bottlers, because they bought the company that did the bottling, that actually do the packing of that product for them. So if you make some sort of new paint, right? I have a client, Rhino Shield, that makes an alternative to paint. Well, they don't actually, in the corporate office, make all that stuff. They have somebody else that makes it for them, packs it, uses their recipe, whatever it is, to do that fulfillment. So you have to determine what that's going to look like. You also need to think about shipping and logistics. Develop the processes and whatever policies you're going to have surrounding how that's going to work. Again, all of this planned out beforehand. You also need to determine your pricing. We do this here at this part, this late in the game, because everything that we just talked about costs money. Product development costs money, and all of that factors into your price, right? So you have to know what all of that's going to cost before you ever get to your price. Once you do that, then you are ready for financing round 2. This is operations and productions financing. This is the one that people talk about more often. Now, after that, you can worry about physical production and sales efforts for your product. Okay, your foundation has been laid, and you can finally do your launch. I know that there's an awful lot of information that I'm kind of forcing at you guys right now. If you want to talk to me specific about your situation, you can contact me afterwards via email, info@bzacharybennett.com. If I can help you, I will. If I need to direct you elsewhere, I will do that as well. You can also reach out to Benny at SBDC to help. Tell him that you saw me and I told you to go to him. You also have great resources at SCORE that you can talk to for direction. Now, the SBDC and SCORE are funded by the SBA, which is the Small Business Association, so, or at least partially funded by them. But what they can do for you is somewhat limited, and they have specific criteria that you have to meet. With the SBDC, and they'll tell you all of this, with the SBDC, they only meet with a certain number of people in a certain number of categories, et cetera, because they have a finite amount of resources. Now, if you're working with private practice business consultants like myself that are not government funded, they're going to have fees, and their limitations will only be bound by their experience, their education, whatever their capabilities are. But if I can help you in any way in directing you to the right people, just let me know. Now, before we move on, let's do another poll, Leslie. Answer this question for me. Where are you at today relative to these steps that I've just mentioned? What have you accomplished? So in this poll here, I want you to check everything that you've completed. Right? Have you started your business plan and secured financing? Have you already developed your physical product? Have you already developed your brand, your positioning, your messaging? You already have a targeted consumer profile. You have your name. You've done your packaging. You've determined both your marketing plan and your sales plan. Those are not the same thing. You've determined all of the behind the scenes thinking, fulfillment, shopping, pricing, that sort of thing. You've already got financing to make your product, or maybe you've already launched your product and you're simply trying to figure out the best ways to move forward and make sure that that is going to be successful. So again, let me know based on those steps where you're at, what all you've accomplished.
All right, we've got about 60% of the folks have voted, so we'll allow a little more time. Okay. I don't see any more coming in, so I've got 60% of the folks have voted. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll.
Okay. All righty. So it looks like most people have come up with their name. Some people have started their business plan. That number is pretty low compared to some of the other ones. Developed your physical product. A lot of times, depending on how you're doing it, if you're in a grassroots sort of thing, you'll come up with the product before you ever decide to sell it. So I kind of understand that. Working on your marketing, that's good. Developing your consumer profile, great. Okay, so nobody here has actually launched a product yet. All right, so let's go through and let's talk about the next step that's going to be beyond that. And that is going to be your pitch that you're going to have to make. Now, what all goes into your pitch? Everything that we just talked about doing, you're doing so that you can win at that retailer pitch. That pitch is that meeting where you convince them to work with you and you start to negotiate that relationship. All right. Now, we've talked about all the work that goes before that. So let's talk about what goes into the pitch itself. You must be able to show all of the product and branding work that you've accomplished, both during the meeting that you're in, right, as part of your presentation, and then also before the meeting, because they're going to do internet research on you prior to the meeting. And with the internet being at the drop of fingertips, you don't want to send in your emails and your introduction letters and that sort of thing without having done your digital world first, because they'll go, oh, that's cool, let's see who they are, and then you're a disaster online. You don't want that to happen. So you have to make sure that your brand is shown both in the meeting, yes, but also where they can see it on the outside during the internet age here. So in that meeting, what are the priorities going to be? Well, quality is going to be first. The first thing that they're going to want to see is that your product is a quality product. Brand is a very close second, because your story may be what sells your product. So they're going to want to see the quality of the product itself, that it works, and then whatever your story is, however you're framing whatever you're selling, because that is a huge factor in why people are going to choose your product. Now, you've likely seen this before, seen these pitches before, maybe several times. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, because that TV show is a shortened, more entertaining, quicker version of a pitch meeting. But the skeleton is still there. So you show what your product is, how it's made, how it works, why people will buy it. Those are the first hurdles, right? Now we move into what is it going to be like for them to work with you, right? So once you prove that your product is worth their attention, you have to prove that you are going to make their life easy and not difficult, because nobody wants to work with somebody that is difficult, especially when you have so many options out there, right? You may have a great, wonderfully unique product, but there's several other people that they can fill their shelves with. So they want to make sure that you are going to be something that's beneficial to them financially and from a service standpoint as well. So you need to show your plans for ensuring that you're going to be able to keep your product in stock, in inventory, for when the stores want it. many manufacturers cannot keep up with demand. When I tell you these people will buy from you in bulk, depending on what it is you sell, they will buy from you in bulk. And if you cannot keep up from a production standpoint, they're going to have a problem. So they're going to want for you to prove that you can make as much as they can sell. So you have to, in your plan, in your presentation, your pitch, you're going to have to go through and talk about what your rate of production is, how you plan on keeping up with whatever it is that they are going to be selling for you. There's another TV show besides Shark Tank called The Profit. If you've seen that, a lot of times he will go in and show you retail pitch meetings because he's one of these guys that set it up. I'll talk more about him in a minute. But you can see all the questions that they ask during this. And are you going to be able to keep up with production is a big one. You've seen the commercial it was a couple of years back now where this company opened up their first business and they launched the product on the website and they're like, first order, and everybody in the office, yay! And then that ticker keeps going like this and the people start to panic because they have to make that stuff. That's what I'm talking about here. Make sure that you explain to them how you're going to keep up with whatever that demand is. You're also going to have to show your research and development to determine the right price point. Now, understand that the retailer's expertise is usually what sets the price point. They tell you what this will likely sell for, but you can influence that, right? You can make your case on whether it should be high end or whatever, but in the end, their expertise as the ones that sell to the public, they're going to tell you how much it's worth. But you can't influence that decision. You need to show your thinking behind whatever that is to support what you're doing. The next thing, of course, is you have to showcase your brand, your PR strategy, all the ongoing marketing communication that you're going to be doing moving forward, the digital presence. And you need to show that you are both professional and attractive. And what are you going to do to stay that way after they agree to work with you? Okay, so you have to show all of the efforts that you've done to date, that you've done to be seen, to raise awareness of who you are, and the professionalism that you've had behind doing that. But they're also going to want to know, okay, what are you going to do after this to make sure that this demand and this awareness stays, right? Because it doesn't all fall on the retailer. You'll see a lot of times, for example, Calvin Klein, just to give you an example, does these large campaigns to the general public so that you're aware of whatever they sell. Well, Macy's, Nordstrom, whoever, they do their advertising as well, but they're not the same thing. Calvin Klein has an overarching thing that supports and drives people into those stores. So they're going to want to know, what are you going to do, to support that? Now, you also need to show them your shipping, your exchange, and your return policies so that they can see your thinking and, again, your professionalism that you've thought through this. So you need to make sure that you ensure your shipments, declare, again, who's responsible for the product in transit, who pays for shipping. A lot of times, the manufacturer will cover shipping there, sometimes not. All of those things you need to be thought out, because then they'll respect you more, is what will happen. Because you've thought through all of these things. Now, the most important thing that they're going to want to see is your track record with proof of sales. Now, to do that, you're going to have to market your product and make sales on your own first. So do sales so that you can track those sales to report in your retail pitch meeting. If you don't have that, there's no sense in you having a pitch meeting, because it is the most important thing they're going to want to see. Okay, that is the biggest piece of evidence that they have. Now, to accomplish this most important one, now that you know the science behind selling, right? You have to know how people think in selling things. You're going to have to put all of that into practice. So we start by, creating whatever your market tools are going to be, your marketing tools. More than likely, you're going to have a website, probably e-commerce website, collateral materials if you're looking at selling in person. Again, all this depends on what your sales plan was. Again, this is why you have to do your plan first. You also need to establish and maintain a social media presence. Social media is no longer optional for companies unless you own a gas station. Most companies having a social media presence is very, very important. The importance of social media has grown more than anybody, including me who lives in this, ever thought that it would be. So establish and maintain your social media presence. Shipping labels. You have to, again, maintain professionalism, a positive brand image throughout the product cycle. That means when it leaves you and goes to them, it's in branded packaging, which simply can mean the label. Okay. It also means that if it goes to the customer, it's the same thing. I know everybody here has experienced buying things from Amazon. When you get something from Amazon, it is in Amazon. The outside of the box tells you where it's coming from. It has a little smile that's looking at you. They've made the commercials to even, kind of showcase that that's supposed to be a smile, the A to Z line. So your professionalism, whether you're delivering it wholesale or to the customer, that makes a difference. The way you present yourself makes a difference. So maintain that professionalism and positive brand image throughout the product cycle. And then again, you have your presentation materials for pitching locally, right, to the attainable retailers that you're going to have on your own that we're going to talk about shortly. Whatever you need to present yourself to people, you're going to need those materials as well. All of this falls under business communications and marketing. Next, you're going to need to produce your first run of quantities of your product. Now, for retail, you're going to need to look into your SKU. Now, SKU numbers are unique to the company that is selling the product. You're also going to have to look at UPC numbers, which are unique to the product if you have more than one product. And they're going to have the requirements depending on who the retailer is. You could probably get away with just like a barcode SKUs to begin with. But as you get to where you're selling to more than one retailer, you have more than one product, they're going to may want very specific things to something that you're selling in their store. So again, this is all something that goes into the product packaging, but it's something that you need to think about because it needs to be added to the design before you produce the product packaging. Don't go out and produce a bunch of product and then expect to sell it in store unless you at least have that barcode on there, because it's very likely that the store won't take it because they can't scan it. So very important to know that. You also need to make sure that whatever fulfillment processes that you have are in place, fully operational, that you can actually make product. Because the second you start telling people about product and they start buying it, you have to be able to make it. You don't want to make people upset because they ordered something and can't actually get it from you. You also need to implement whatever your marketing strategies were for direct sales. Right now, at this point, your customers, your first customers, are direct to the end user. You are B2C at this point. Okay, business to consumer. So even though you may plan on doing retail, which is B2B, right now in the very beginning, you're B2C. You are responsible for that final delivery to them. You need to think through that. After you've started that, then you can do your consumer research on getting into new and attainable retailers. That's when you become B2B and they are your customers, right? The retailers that you're trying to get into. Okay, so we've established that you need to have a digital presence. Last piece of advice here as we go through this. Get your website made professionally designed. If you aren't a professional designer, don't do it yourself. You will be evaluated on your presentation, and this is not a place that you want to try to cut corners. So make sure that it looks representative of who you are, and a professional has done it. Lots of people have tried to do this themselves, and it backfires on them. Next, you need to establish your presence online across all the social media platforms that are going to be relative to your audience so that you can can talk to them. Make sure you keep this digital presence updated with frequent content so that you can start building a following. When you go into that pitch and you say, I have, 2,500, 25,000, whatever the case may be, followers on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, that holds weight. Okay, so that's why you want to invest in that, because it helps you during that pitch. Now, the next thing to look at is online retailers, because again, you're doing this yourself. This is direct selling we're talking about, and you can sell on Amazon. Now, Amazon is the #1 e-commerce retailer, but it is not a website for you. Okay, it does not replace you having a company product website. It's not a substitute for you having your own domain, but they are a very popular distribution channel. And they have 2 programs that you can use. They have what's called Amazon FBA, which is filled by Amazon. This was developed over the last couple of years. This is where you send the product to Amazon's warehouse before the customer buys it, and then Amazon fulfills that out of their warehouse directly so that it gets to their customers faster. Okay. The next thing that you're going to need to do this is you're going to need product photos that are on a white background. They have very strict standards as to what you can do. You can't just snap a picture on your phone, sitting on your kitchen table and use that. They won't let you do that. So you have to have professional photos that are on a white background. You have to have a good description. So you have to have copywriting for your product. You can also have what's called enhanced product description on Amazon. That is a separate program called Brand Enhanced. I think it's called Brand Enhanced is the name of the program. But you have to be proven before they'll let you into that. So you have to be able to sell things with a basic profile before they'll let you add more to it to enhance it. On Amazon, the most important thing is going to be reviews. So you need to make sure that you have some sort of system in place to solicit those reviews. Because, again, you're going to say, I've sold this many direct, this many through Amazon, and you want to prove to Amazon that you deserve a more professional profile on their site. That's one. That's FBA. The other one is called Amazon FBM, which is filled by merchant. This is the way it all used to be before they started putting warehouses up all around the country. They make the sale, they tell you, you send the product directly to the customer. A lot of people try to do this different ways, depending on how much inventory you can make a lot of times. But being on Amazon is one of the first things, if you're trying to get into retail, that you're going to want to do, because people buy online now, and that's where they go. All right. And again, I'm not talking about drop shipping. That is a completely different subject. It takes a lot of time up front. It takes different training. But what I am talking about here is creating your own product and taking it to market, not finding something somebody else has already made and trying to sell it. That's different. I'm also not talking about the percentages that Amazon is going to require, because they may vary. While they are an online retailer, they don't operate the same as a retail store. So the whole mark it up half, all that I talked about in the very beginning, that doesn't apply with them. You should think of them more as a distribution outlet for direct sales, because they actually don't sell what you have. You have to sell it, but you can utilize their platform in doing so. Whereas if you're in a store, they have salespeople that are selling it. They have their own advertising that they're doing. On Amazon, you're responsible for all that. They just give you the place to put it. So that's a little bit about Amazon. Next, let's talk about Etsy. Etsy is a completely different animal. They offer to allow you to host a store on their platform and to use their private e-commerce search engine to reach their audience. Okay, they have listing fees, much like eBay. They have store templates that you can use. You need to have a consistent brand and know how to use that when you're building your store. Otherwise, people won't know who you are on Etsy, and they'll get lost with everything else that's there. They won't remember you. They'll traipse off to some other place on Etsy, the same way that people get lost on YouTube. Etsy is really made for a side business. So that person that was talking about their side hustle, a side business, a hobby business, not really entrepreneurial endeavors is what Etsy was made for. But if your product lines up with the audiences, the demographic that uses Etsy, which is a lot of the same people that use Pinterest, then you should definitely have a presence on the site. But it shouldn't be your only online effort. You should not look at it that way. The cost for Etsy is pretty standard. It's 20 cents per listing right now, plus 5%. Plus, you have their financing fees, which is another 3% plus 0.025, I think, per payment that's made. And you can advertise on their site. So many ads that are there as well. So that's kind of a little bit about Etsy. Let's keep going to the next one that people are going to think about, which is Shopify. And it's different still. So Shopify is kind of like WordPress in that they have a website hosting platform, and they also have an e-commerce platform that is integrated within Shopify. Now, they don't have listing fees like Etsy does, but they do have monthly fees and transaction fees, and those can vary. Now, Shopify is actually a web hosting platform, so you can have your website designed to live on Shopify. But again, I would have it professionally designed, even if the platforms here, their marketing tells you that you can do it yourself. They're just fishing for more business. You will never be able to get the same professional quality out of one of these tools or their platform as a professional is going to be able to do. So again, it's just too important to chance, guys. So that's Etsy. Next is eBay. It's an older classic, and this started out as a way to sell used items. But now companies are selling new items here and using it as a search engine and e-commerce platform to sell their things. Most of the businesses that you see selling here are not going to be big. They're going to be smaller businesses that are trying to make it, and it's one of the first things that they do. They have auction style listings. They also have buy it now listings. The fees vary depending on who it is. But the good thing about this is eBay's pages will often show up in search engine results. Because eBay has been around for so long and the legacy that they have, if you post a product on eBay, it's likely that if somebody Googles that product, that your listing may show up. So that's a positive thing about using eBay. And then there are tons of other niche websites that you might be able to sell through, depending on whatever your industry is. Some of them may allow you to do drop shipping of your product direct to the customer in exchange for a referral fee or commission. Now, what that is you'll partner with somebody that owns a domain, and they will offer to sell your product, but you'll never send them the product. What they'll do is they'll tell you, hey, I sold this. You'll pay them a commission of whatever it is that you make, and you will send that product directly to their customer. That's kind of how a lot of these niche sites work. Next, you can also sell via telephone. You'll need to set up the equipment and the processes that are necessary for your salespeople to follow, but you can sell via telephone. You can also sell at your own location, if applicable, if you have your own location. A lot of people own a store and then they make a product. You can put that product in your store. If you own a restaurant and you've decided to bottle your sauce, again, you can, whatever your location is, you can obviously sell it there. You can also have a mobile store. This is what you see here on the screen is like a mobile, it's like a food truck for clothes. But these things, depending on where you are, can be more or less popular. A lot of people start with a mobile store first. A lot of mechanics start mobile as well, but something you can think about. You can also be listed as a wholesaler in wholesale directories, okay? But if you build it, they will come simply doesn't work. You will need to drive traffic to these places in order to make sales. And you do that through advertising and branding, which I'm not going into a lot of today. But if you are there in your company's journey, reach out to me and I can discuss it with you personally about how to use these things. But those are things that you're going to need to use to drive traffic to make your sales. Then you're going to want to track those sales along with your marketing efforts in order to provide that proof that your product is sellable. Okay, and that you have the experience and the professionalism to see these things through when you do your pitch. You want to be as put together as possible when you go in there. Now, in addition to direct sales, which can be difficult, you can also get retail experience on the local level. Mom and pop shops are a good example of this. You can also go on consignment in some of the larger shops. Maybe the larger retailers have a local section, depending on your product. Some grocery stores will have that locally grown. They'll have their own section for that, in which case you don't actually have to go through the chain. Usually you can go through the store manager, maybe the district manager, and you don't have to go through corporate. Most of what I'm talking about here is corporate, right? So to go after these smaller retailers, your strategy needs to be to make a relationship with the owner, the manager, or the buyer if they happen to have their own buyer. You want to hang out with them. You want to bring them gifts until they agree to meet with you and consider carrying your product. A lot of times the owner works in the store. So frequent the store, hang out with them, become buddies, right? Because again, people like to do business with people that they know. So you need to think about how you can make them the hero to their customers. So you need to remember in your thinking that with you selling to them, it's not about you. It's about them. If you sell my product, your customers will, right? Because that's the end goal. So what's going to make them look like a hero, like the go-to place for their customers? That's what you need to be thinking of. And you need, like I said, you need to get to know them so that you can get that audience with them to do your pitch, right? So be friendly to begin with and earn your way to business. And again, all of your materials should be about how you're going to help them, how you're going to come alongside them and help their audience as you partner with them to make them look good. You want to align those goals, which again goes back to some of the science of selling that we talked about. And then again, track your results so that you can prepare that with retail pitches. A lot of people, business owners, people that make products very early on, they're just happy to make sales and they never track what they're doing. If you want to use that as evidence, you have to have a system to track your successes. And because you're going to use that as leverage, as experience in your pitch. Now, you can also sometimes have a limited distribution deal that is a trial before you are sent out into larger areas. For example, if you want to be in a certain store, they may have multiple stores, but they'll tell you, we're going to try you here because they want to see how you do. They want to see what your track record is before they allow you into their other stores. That's like a small version of the same big thing that we're talking about. So that's another possibility as well. Now, before I tell you how to go for it with connecting to these retailers, let's review. When you're readying for retail, you have to have a good brand. That is, you have to be very attractive to store buyers and the end user, of course. You have to have a sales track record that's proof, and it makes them feel like you are less of a risk because there's proof that you sell. And so it's not as risky to decide to do business with you. Show them that you have a following because this too makes them feel like you are less of a risk. Have a good presentation materials, photos, videos, etc. That again, it shows that you're serious about business, and it makes them feel that they can trust that you will hold up your end of their agreement, their partnership. You need to think of how you're going to be displayed at the retail. Again, retail, it shows that you're making their job easier. So think about your packaging in their stores, right? What's that going to look like? Because it shows them that you've thought all the way through to the customer. And all of this stuff is going to matter. So when all of that has been completed, and don't go before you're ready. Most likely, and I was telling Leslie this yesterday, I believe, more than likely you only get one shot at this. So don't be amateur and don't blow it. You'll end up having to go back and completely rebrand and hope they forget about your initial impression if you ruin it. So do it right the first time. Don't try to wing it. So know what's expected of you when you go in to do the pitch. Show your brand story, show momentum, right? Show that you have momentum going in the desire for your product. Show the product, right? Product demo. Now, a lot of times, if your product is something that can't be carried to the pitch, you can use video. Video is perfectly acceptable nowadays. Usually, like this guy, they'll have some sort of monitor in there that you can play your video on. Perfectly acceptable. You need to have a professionally produced video in that case. So you need to be able to kind of show all of those things. You also have to know how to pitch. Know what matters. Know how to not be ignored. Know which words to use. Know what it is that they want to see. They want more insight from you, your systems, your processes. This is some of what matters, right? They want to know your brand. They want to know your story to date. All of this is going to minimize their risk that they're taking by doing business with you. You have to show them that you can uphold your end of the partnership if they accept you and do business with you. Now, the other thing is as far as being intimidated, the buyers are going to pay attention to you and they are interested because they are hungry for whatever the next big thing is. But you have to prove to them that that's you. You have to present appropriately. Their customers are constantly wanting new things. Therefore, they want you, but you have to do it right. They want to talk to you, but they don't want to be annoyed. So do it the right way. Be interesting. Use the right words, the right presentation. They are interested, but don't waste their time. You have to learn how to approach them. An approach we're going to talk about here today as well. They want to know more info about what it is you have done in the past as proof. Okay, you have to prove what you're going to do. Your mama always told you, your daddy always told you, your track record says what. So they want to know any retailers, any experience that you have. Again, it shows that you are less risky. If you don't have this, you will need to somehow convince them without having sales done. Now, it can be done. I have seen it done, but it is not easy. It is not the norm. So more than likely, unless you have some wonder product, you are going to have to show them some proof. Bottom line tips that you can remember. Make the buyer's life easy by having everything figured out. If you have a display unit, it helps them. It makes it easier for them. And it shows them that you're making their life easier. That's just an example. Be persistent. Don't get discouraged. This is a risk for them. They need to see that you are serious in making this relationship. But maybe they have a limited budget for this season. They would like to buy from you next season. So make sure you keep that relationship. Stay in touch. Follow up with them. Keep them in the loop as to what's going on with you so that when it comes back around that they can make a deal with you, that they will. So you have to understand what their limitations are that they're given by their corporate as well. Now, you can send them free samples, and you need to find a way to stand out from all of the others that are also trying to stand out from the buyers. You need to have thought of everything. Prepare your negotiation points. Know what's important to them. Make generous return, exchange, and refund policies. Make them feel that working with you is going to be good and easy. Showcasing these will help guarantee that you are going to make their life easier and that you will be easy to work with. It also shows confidence in your products when you have a generous return or refund exchange policy. It means that you don't believe that a lot of these things are going to be returned, and that's good. Now, some business owners are scared of these policies, but statistically, the percentages are good for most manufacturers that are trying to do this route. Most manufacturers, most business owners are not taken advantage of by retailers in this. It's like 1% maybe that do. So it helps more than it hurts. Same thing with shipping policies. As I mentioned earlier, assume as much risk as you can to make them feel as comfortable as you can. All right, so when you're ready, we'll talk about the standard process to begin with. Once you have what you consider to be a good presentation with the data to back it up, you are ready to try and set up some meetings for these larger retail chains. So let's talk about using the front door first. You will need to go through their standard application process and jump through their hoops in order to get to the right person. Now, this is the supplier checklist for Walmart. It is 4 pages of qualifications that you have to make sure you meet before you ever apply. So again, guys, this isn't a joke, because once you're invited, you will be able to present your product. This is the pitch that you give them as to why they should choose to work with you. And you're going to need the same proof and information that I've previously mentioned once you get to this point. Now, this is what's considered the long way. Okay, this is the standard way. It is the equivalent of sending in your band's demo tape to the record label and hoping that you get a deal. If it's worth it to you to go through this, make a list of the retailers that you think are a good fit based on your consumer research, usually where your end user would shop. So look at, when you're studying your audience, you figure out where they would shop. Those are the ones you want to go to. And then prepare all of the information that they're going to require, which I've just told you about, and then apply. And after you apply, wait your turn. When they pick you, do your presentation. That is the standard way of doing it. Now, let's talk about shortcuts. Having a partner. If you find somebody that's already done this, you can use their experience and their connections to cut in front of the line. Now, these people can be consultants, licensees, investors, agents, or brokers, which I talked about a little bit. These last two give introductions for a fee. A lot of times they're hired by the retailer. The retailer will hire them and say, I need X, go find it. And so they will go to try to find somebody that makes whatever the product is. So they're a good person to be in contact with. Usually they have multiple stores that they're working with. Now, make sure that you have more than an idea when you meet with these potential partners. They don't want to hear about your dreams. They want everything that I've already talked about and proof that they should, take you to that next level. They want your preparation to be complete just as much as anybody else is going to, because these partners are sought after all the time too, just like the retailers themselves. Now, some more famous partners would be Marcus Lemonis. He's one of these. He's the guy that's on the show, The Prophet. All of the sharks that are on Shark Tank, they are all this type of person. You have John Taffer from the show Bar Rescue. He is one of these. But there are several that are not famous and not from TV shows. But as far as you see how these people operate, you can look on TV and see them. They're a little, highlighted, a little turned up. But the job that we're talking about of this person is them. These guys don't work for a retailer a lot of times. They are just going to connect you and make money off that connection, okay? But you need to know that you are selling you as much as you are selling your product. They don't want to work with just anybody that has an idea. Again, your presentation is going to matter. They want to see the same things that you're going to show in your pitch: sales track record, your story, your media success, and how you can demonstrate that you can meet the inventory demands of their contacts, because they don't want to be made to look like a fool by bringing you in. They bring you in, get everybody excited, and you can't fulfill. They don't want to risk that. So they're going to want that proof to make them feel good about working with you. You can also find a licensing partner. A lot of times they understand the process and they champion whatever it is that they're doing for multiple manufacturers at the same time. They can also help you pitch to big stores. Licensing is a little bit different, and it usually involves exclusivity, and today's class isn't on licensing specifically, so I'll move on. But these potential partners, all of them, may actually seek you out. Again, they will look for you based on your track record. If they hear your story, if they recognize, they've been made aware of your brand, they can actually come to you if they learn about you in the marketplace, because this is their job. They are always looking for whatever the next big thing is. In that way, you can think of them as like an independent A&R rep that's looking for talent for a record label. I come from a musician's background, lots of that going on. But they will look for you as much as you're looking for them, which is another thing to support why you should be making a splash in the marketplace. Now, buyers. How do you find them directly? Often, to begin with, you need to know what they can be called, other than just buyers. Often, their department is called procurement, purchasing, supply management, planner, so that you know who you're looking for at the different retailers. Those are some buzzwords that you can look that mean buyer. Okay. Now, where can you find them? Well, you can find them at trade shows. They're usually out walking the floor, looking for new products. You can be there. You can start a relationship with them. That's one place to run into them. Industry shows, same thing. Have a good professional booth at one of these shows. They'll come around to the booth. You can talk to them, build a relationship, all without having to go through that big stack of paperwork through the normal, traditional way that everybody hates, right? This way they make a connection with you to begin with. You can also use showrooms. These are like gift marts. This one is from Atlanta. They are wholesale marketplaces. This is America's Mart. I never really knew how to pronounce that, but this is in downtown. And you can think of them as a long-term trade show with permanent booths. They also host multiple trade shows throughout the year with different industries. So they get frequented by buyers quite a bit. So another thing that you can do to find buyers. The other is independent sales reps. You can go to rephunter.net. This is a website that you can use to find these folks, these indie sales reps. There's someone to call on, someone that you can use, outsource, to call on retailers or wholesalers so that they can encourage whoever that is to carry your product. They may work for several independent manufacturers at the same time. And so the idea is that you're pooling together with somebody else to pay for whatever their salary is. Until you have enough volume to justify having your own salesperson, outsourcing this function may be the way to go. They'll show samples. They'll show catalogs that describe the items of all the companies that they represent. And when the company is interested, they will then call in for the pitch meeting. So they open the door. Now, sometimes buyers will have what's called an open call. Now, you have to look out for these in order to find them. And an open call is just like you can imagine an open mic night when anybody can come down and pitch. Anybody can come down and sing on the stage, right? So you come down, you wait in line, you go through a screening process, and because they're trying to hire a bunch of people, vendors, right, at that time. This is one that Walmart had for Arkansas. Again, you just have to keep looking in the industry trades until you can find one of these and then attend. The other is direct outreach, right? So to do direct outreach for these guys, you need to research the buyers. There's directories. that are available. This one here is for the Montana Agricultural Buyers Directory. Just look for buyer directories and see what you can find. There may be one for your industry. There may be one for your area. Again, you can look for that as a way to find buyers as well. There's also LinkedIn. You can do research on LinkedIn. There's associations for various industries that you can go to. Marketingmentor.com has links to trade shows and lists that you can look at. You may also find them commenting on industry news articles. So as you look around the trade publications or online forums, whatever, if you can recognize who they are, build a relationship with them online. Find their contact information. Send them an introduction email. Follow up. And then when they invite you to, apply for a retail account. And they, because you've already established a relationship with them, they will find your application amongst that big database and get you that pitch meeting. Because that's what all of this is about, is you trying to get in for that pitch meeting. Next, distributors. Distributors, sometimes these guys are called wholesale distributors, but basically they warehouse products so that when a retailer calls on them, they can stock that retailer's inventory quickly. Often at the retailer's request, these distributors may call on you if there's an established demand for your product based on all the work that you've done before. Now, the distributors basically take on the responsibility of storing and shipping products from you to the retailer. They often make set up displays like these for Coca-Cola. The distributor did that. The retailer did not. You can find them in the same ways that you can find the buyers. They walk in the same circles, but they also have their own association. So you can go to the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors, which is naw.org. That's one of the places that you can go to find them. There's also the reseller network, free website for distributors to use. Again, research it, you can kind of see where these folks hang out. Now, the next thing is wholesalers. Most wholesalers you're going to find locally, but there are online wholesale marketplaces as well. There's Tundra and there's a Handshake. There's lots of them that you can find that are online. There's also wholesale directories like For Wholesale USA, BOA Link, GreatRep.com, Top 10 Wholesale, Closeout Central, ToyDirectory.com if you make toys, Wholesale Directory, which sounds really generic, but it's an actual thing. Wholesalersforyou.co.uk is one for the UK. And then there's also B2B marketplaces like Alibaba's, depending on how you're planning on selling your stuff. If you want somebody else to be able to drop ship you, because that's a lot of what they do, is they're a bunch of manufacturers that allow other people to private label whatever it is that they make, which is not the majority of what I'm talking about here today, but it is an option. Alibaba's is out of China. So in closing here, you need to understand that building a manufacturer business is not going to be quick. There are a lot of steps, and it's going to take a lot of investment. But if your product prevails, you will reap great rewards. So don't rush, be informed, and don't cut corners. Now, before we start taking questions here, we're going to be doing a giveaway. I will be giving away free copies of Married to Marketing. That's the book that I wrote to some of today's participants. Paperback, ebook, audio format, we'll be giving away some of those. You have to register for this. You go to bzacharybennett.com/score. You go there, you fill out the form, use webinar code so that I know you came from this particular workshop, because we want to make sure where you came from, and also all entries will be verified by the webinar roster. This makes it where nobody else kind of creeps in and takes your opportunity to to get one of these. Now, Leslie, do we have any questions for me here?
We do. We have several questions. So
Alrighty.
let's jump into those. Okay, so the first question, and I'm starting at the top. The first question is, what's the best way to market your books? Would that be different?
Well, that depends on if you have a publisher or not. Being an author is a little different. If you are self-publishing, there's 2 or 3 different places to go. Amazon is huge, is a great place to sell through your book through. And then Barnes & Noble has one as well. I can't remember what the name of it is, but there are programs set up for self-publishing. If you have a publisher, you have to treat them as if they were a retailer. They will work for you, but you have to convince them that you're worth promoting. So.
Okay. All right. The next question is from Elnora. This one is, you mentioned about selling your product to build a history on how it will sell.
Yes.
What about copyright infringement? Do you recommend getting a patent before taking it to market to gather the selling history?
Yes. If in different industries respect patents in different ways, but before you tell anybody else about your wonder product that you've made, you need to protect yourself in the invention as a whole. Now, if you've made a barbecue sauce, that you may not have to patent. You have a secret recipe. But as you become successful, then you're going to want to make sure you protect it. So it depends on what it is. But if you make the next iPhone, yes, patent it.
Okay. Let's see. The next one is from, I think it's Vakanda. If you have products constantly being shipped, is there a way to set up a contract with the shipping companies for a flat rate?
Well, you can get a specific rate. You won't get a flat rate because it will depend on what your products are, how big they are, if you have more than one, that sort of thing. But you can set up where you get a special rate based on the volume that you do. So yes, you can reach out to whatever shipping company you want to use. The big 3, UPS, DHL, and FedEx all have these programs. You have to set up for a business account. And the more volume you do, again, you have to prove to them that you're going to have volume. Then you'll start to get better rates. When you go through Amazon, if you use Amazon's Fulfilled by Amazon FBA program, you'll get those rates because of Amazon. So yes, the answer is yes.
All right. Okay, the next question is also from Vakanda. This one is, and maybe you'll understand a different meaning in this one. I know how I would answer this one based on what I do, but what's the best software to use to track your sales?
Well, let's let you answer that.
Okay.
What do you think the best software is?
So my recommendation for businesses is to have financial software. So the 2 that I work with that are my preferred and are also the top are either Xero or QuickBooks. PC Magazine, I think, also has maybe FreshBooks in that mix as well. I'm only familiar with those 2. So having financials is the best way to track your sales. You can also, not only track sales dollars, but break down the detail into, whether you sell, red ones or green ones, or whether you sell, T-shirts versus, sweatshirts. So then you can do some analysis.
Yeah, there are lots of different softwares that are out there. QuickBooks is probably the most used, but there's also ones that integrate a CRM component to it. And depending on your industry, there'll be different things that would be recommended to you based on whatever it is that you're going to sell. There's some tailored to those.
Yeah.
But the most basic way is to just do it through your finances, as opposed to actually having one that does your inventory and your marketing and all of that. But those do exist.
Yeah. So. All right. Okay, the next question is from Phaedra. Okay, this one is around insurance. Any suggestions for when and how to seek insurance for your business, particularly a food or beverage product?
Well, you need to find somebody that does commercial insurance, and you need to find a broker that does it, because brokers will usually get you the best rate because they shop multiple insurance companies, and they're like a consultant that you can trust with your insurance business. Partnering with other people is huge, guys. Use somebody else's expertise in what it is you're doing. So find someone, probably local to you is best, that you feel like you can trust to find the best deal for you. But they have to be able to do commercial insurance. Now, food has its own rules depending on where you are. So this city may want something that this other city doesn't want, this county, etc. So that's why I say look local, because they should know what that is. So, but basically networking, and interviewing people until you find one that you like. Liking them is huge. Trusting them.
Yeah, and then as far as the when, that the question was around when. I would say
when to do it. I would say, well, with food, there's rules. There's specific laws depending on where you are about when you have to have insurance for food. And there's certain things that you can ship over the internet. There's certain things that you can't. So you'd have to find somebody that's an expert in food to know what all of those are. And there's lots of people that do that. But as far as when you should do it before you start selling your product. Because you're going to want to have that in place. You're going to be required to have that in place according to whatever the law's timelines are. I know in Gwinnett County, you can't have a food truck without also having a detached kitchen that is not the truck. That is a requirement by law to have a food truck. So you have to figure out what those rules are based on wherever you live, wherever you're going to be operating your business, and then comply accordingly.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, so the next question is from Elnora, and this is, and I think you went over this, but it was around, how do you get a pitch meeting with a large company, a Fortune 500 company?
Yep. So I went through a lot of that.
We covered that. Let's see. Here's another one from Emmanuel. What resources can we use to find a manufacturer for an original clothing product?
So to find a manufacturer, so you're talking about you're going to sell somebody else's product? Because that's different. That's drop shipping. That's something else. That's private labeling. Today I was talking about if you made one. Now, if you're talking about finding somebody to sew it, that's different. And your industry will have different things depending on what that is. And you have to, you'll have to find somebody. They're going to want to see these, like I was telling you before, they're going to want to see what they're going to have to work with before they tell you how much they're going to charge you to sew X amount of dresses or whatever it is. But most of what I talked about today is you making it, not taking somebody else's and trying to sell it. That is different. We'd have to talk separately for that.
Yeah. So he's saying selling jeans, but I get the impression that because he's saying original clothing product, that it's his design, he needs somebody to make it.
Yeah, you would be looking for somebody that makes, I guess, produces is the best word, according to your design. So there's a lot of places. You would look at that almost like you do a co-packer. You would find somebody that has a facility that does that and then talk to them about having yours, about making yours. A lot of that stuff is done overseas. There's a lot of Chinese manufacturers that do that. They'll make things according to your design. They'll also do that with hard products. I have this little device right here, which I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but it was made from somebody in China. The guy sent his specs of what it is that he wanted to several places in China to figure out who could make it cheapest, the best quality. He got examples back. So there's no real shortcuts. You have to research that. You have to know, depending on what you're making, the different people, and then you have to grade them based on the quality and the terms that they're going to do it for.
Yeah. Do you go through someone like Alibaba to find something like that, or?
For Alibaba, you would find people that have already made things. Now, if they've already made things, then the chances of them being able to also make yours is greater. So you definitely can do that. That's one way to do it. Basically, you go and you find something on Amazon, because Alibaba and Amazon are tied together like this. So you find something on Amazon that's generic, right? Like, scarves. So, and then you find several people that are making the same scarf at the same price. And you see multiple people have this same thing. Usually it's with the same pictures. You can go to Alibaba, search for it, find it, and then find the people that are making it. If it's all the same, it's because multiple people make the same thing. So then you can contact them directly through Alibaba. But you can also have things made in the United States as well. For those of you that, made in the USA, you just have to research who they are.
Okay. Let's see. We've got one more minute. I have a question from Zinnia. Where to get wholesale labeling for your product?
Okay. There is a company, and I'm going to promote them because I actually work with them. Go to labelvillage.com. They make labeling for small businesses, and they will give you, they're the best place that I know of because they will let you do smaller quantities than other ones will. But there's lots of things that you can do as far as the different sizes that you want, the different materials